everyone. Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, B.J.R. Stewart. Tonight is a special show. Today is December 24th, 2025, Christmas Eve. And my other two co-hosts are not here tonight. That'll be Uncle Sar and Tommy D. Duncan III. So I'm flying solo tonight. But we're going to do a special throwback show to 2019. We actually started the show. I started the show in 2018. Tommy joined in 2019. And so we're going to go back to the very early years and show you the first episode of 2019. Back then, we actually met and filmed the show in a studio. So the background is a little different. The sound is a little different. I'm about 75 pounds heavier and probably not as good looking. So without further ado, let's get in our time machine and go back to 2019, the very first show. Let me cue it up for you. Here we go.
Welcome to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, Tommy Dunn.
And this is actually our very first show for the new year, 2019.
Happy 2019, everyone.
Happy New Year, everyone. So today we're going to discuss the black man and whether the black man now at a point where we are holding back the black woman. I don't know if that's true or not, but let's see if we can put our heads together and figure it out. And then the things that we can do as black men to help change that culture.
So you bring up a pretty interesting topic, especially for starting off the new year. So the question is whether the black man is holding back the black woman. I guess the question is, why is that even a question?
Well, when you look at half of black boys who graduate high school, you already know there's a disparate number of black men graduating from college versus black men. Just black men that are on college campuses. Women are many black men. And very rarely black men graduate. And there doesn't seem to be enough pedigree degree black men out there for all the black women who are college educated, even all college educated black men.
Okay, I get it. And especially when you talk about the low graduation rates, especially in some of the larger urban neighborhoods, I think typically the suburban areas typically have a little bit better graduation rate among black men. But if you talk to many black women, in this, regardless of what part of the country you're in, one of the issues is finding someone who can match them, not only in terms of economics, but in terms of professional pedigree and a lot of those other areas. And so that is something that a lot of folks are quietly, not so quietly talking about. And I guess the thing that I always want to talk about is, what is the cause and effect? And is this a symptom problem or is this the problem?
Well, it's a symptom of a problem. It's not the problem. But also, with that kind of disparity in education levels, and income levels, it interferes with the social norms of the male-female relationship when you talk about traditional marriage. Generally, the expectation is that you have a strong father figure, husband figure, who's more of the decision maker, direction setter, protector for the family. And when you have income that plays into that, I've seen several studies that show that most black women, almost 8%, do not want a man in their life who makes less money than them. I don't care what people say. Publicly, it's for that. Secret up and deep down, women are a lot more traditional. They still would like the man to be the breadwinner for the home. But when she makes more money than him, She has no education with them. And that sort of messes up that calculus.
Well, let's talk about how we get here and what's happening and why is the young black men or, black men in general, why have they been falling behind the black men and what are the true causes of this? And then if we're talking about getting to a solution, we have to look at the cause and then focus on solving the problem and not the symptom.
Well, I hate to simplify the whole issue, but to me, the white liberal progressive social democrat has been the biggest menace to the black community, and us following that trend. We can no longer, and I say this with passion, it may not seem, you will see this further now, only because I'm getting a really bad head and chest cold, but I can't emphasize enough how we need to get off following white people in their social media. Well, I'll cut that out. We need to get back to doing things that we know are the right things to do. We know we have to discipline our kids. We cannot discipline our kids the same way white people discipline their kids. We cannot get caught up in the same drug movements and social movements and human rights movements that white folks do. That may work for them, but it's destroying our communities, it's destroying our families, it's destroying our schools, and now we're in such a big mess right now. This is a huge mess. There are no simple answers to other than roll the clock back. Let's go back to doing things that we know are right for us.
Well, I parts of it I agree with, parts that I would disagree with. I would definitely agree that what has worked for other cultures doesn't particularly work for the black community. There are folks who are on both sides of how effective integration has been, because the reality of it is our ancestors, our grandparents, great-grandparents have fought for freedom and access. But the reality of it is, you look at the positives and the negatives of integration. It has created a lot of good things that we've been able to, for instance, we've been able to obviously have access to the best educational institutions in America, access to opportunities professionally. But on the other hand, as we've discussed before, it has also systematically destroyed the black economy in America. And so as a result of that, there are some unintended consequences that come with trying to what we call assimilate into American culture. And that begs the question, well, what are the options here? And you have to consider, okay, this is American culture, and to a certain degree, you're going to have to adopt some of the principles of it. But the question is, where do you draw the line?
Well, you have a good point there. And let me just say this when it comes to sort of political and social ideology. The reason I don't put as much blame on the conservative Republican, because that's a party that generally stands for strong family values, strong work ethic, being responsible for yourself, less government, and you are helping your fellow man out when you help yourself. You're not doing anyone else, and you are actually helping yourself. And when you look at the other side, the message is, hey, nothing's your fault. Everyone seems to be a victim here, which, as long as you are a victim, you will never ever be a solution about it. You will never take your way to the next step, to the next solution, do anything for yourself, as long as you feel victimized. So the message here is not your fault. You live in a high crime area, it's not your fault. Your mom and dad are in jail, is not your fault. The schools you go to, there's a high crime area, and no one expects you to come out with a quality education. Nothing is anyone's fault in that, but someone has to be at blame. You can't fix it. If you go to any of those self-help programs, the very first step is accepting some personal. You can't fix anything in your life until you're willing to say, I'm right. So we got to be at this point now where we have to be able to say, and I'm not necessarily saying that the right liberal progressive social democrat is an evil person. They're well intentioned. But here's the problem I have with the whole movement that I have for years. Is that from slavery on to now, they never ever want to apologize for the words of the mind in that community. They have yet to ever go back and look at any program and anything they've done to say, this didn't quite the way we intended. So we can make some tweaks and changes. No, they just keep doubling down on bad policy. And when the message that is so right for so many years, you say by now, we at a point where you say, we tried the socialist thing, we tried this, we tried that. We tried management schools, that was quite well. We tried management economy, that was quite well. So maybe let's try something different, and that the state and the cities and the county should be laboratory for social, where you can see what ideas work and which ones don't. But from the left, all you get is a double, triple down on bad policies that have not worked, that continue to destroy lives. And then people are mystified when you look up and say, what happened? How did we get here? So once again, my solution is quite simple. We have to step away from white folks. And to some degree, get back to finding things that work for us. And those values that work for us, we stick to.
I got you. Well, I mean, there's part of that I would agree. There's part of that I would diverge from. I think that we get lost in the segmentation of right liberal progressive Democrats or ultra right conservatives in terms of there you go. Exactly. I think we get lost in the segmentation as to who's doing it. At the end of the day, what we do know historically, I mean, history speaks for that, is that right after the Emancipation Proclamation, within the next decade, I think was probably one of the fastest growing times within the Black community in terms of making progress, in terms of representation in government, in terms of efforts to enfranchise ourselves by getting land, and of course, building economies. But the reality of it is, within a decade after that, around 1876, both sides of the equation, both the Union and Confederates, made a pact to say, you know what, one side, I'll get out of your way, the other side, we will allow you to take control of what you have in the South. And so I think that has happened several times, again, regardless of where we are in history. And so I don't know whether it's an issue of left or right, where I would
No, sir, go ahead and do your show.
in terms of us making a decision that we have to start making decisions for ourselves. It may be painful in the short term, but if we're ever going to have an effective outcome in the long term, otherwise self-determination, having control over our destiny, building our own.
I mean, you can close it back. I'll air it out.
Afford
I'm going to take the meat off in a little while.
from government,
After I do my video,
any other cultural people, that which we can do for ourselves. And I think that really comes to the conversation of whether you're trying to assimilate our society or if you're focusing more on self-determination and on nationalism, for that matter. And so people get confused with the issue. I think to your point, we have to keep it very simple. I think the problem is finding that unifying line that enough folks within our community can agree upon, not only to say, hey, here are a couple of things that we can all agree upon and begin to focus on things that are going to benefit the next generation and the next generation after that. But unfortunately, I think we get too segmented on the public.
me take my mic off mute. That would help. So that was part one of the show from the very first show of 2019. Um, Back then, we actually filmed the show in 20-minute segments. And the show was about 30 minutes to 40 minutes back then. So we'd do one or two episodes, at least two, back then, and then and piece them together. So let me go ahead and cue up the very second part of that show. Let me find it for you. Season 2, episode 2, part 2. Here we go. Let's cue it up. Switch over and start sharing that screen.
Welcome to our Black House. Co-host J.R. Stewart.
And I am Tyler Johnson.
And we're going to finish our conversation on who's described this year. Please, not only to, no, I'm sorry, not only, this year, please let others know that we exist, spread the word, get your friends, family, others who subscribe to our show also. It would be a great way. When you do subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can notify the new show that's coming out.
Absolutely, and in addition to that, we will have a lot of new and exciting and interesting things coming up on the horizon for 2019. We'll be taking the show on the road, you'll see the evolution of the look and feel of our platform, and we'll definitely be getting a lot more folks just like you engaged with what we're doing and getting your opinions and getting your contributions. You help us grow, and that's why we're here.
This is really about what business.
Yeah.
We may become the greatest show.
Yeah, there we go.
The great travel show in the world.
That means we didn't have to look at going international, man.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, shoot, the American brothers born and raised here. Now, what, over 100 years, I believe, and now they have given away to the surface layers and those folks. So at the end of the day, the other message that comes from that is that you have to evolve and adapt. I mean, dinosaurs are no longer here. So if you don't evolve and adapt to what's going on in your environment, you are not going to survive.
Well, speaking of that, I think I saw an episode of the morning show when they were talking about this is going to be the last show. I think it was Erected Jackson. The leading outfield driver, other leadership position within the show. Some of the all kind of folks. I'm like, boy, just a black person who elevated with their leading brother, they could elevate the position of leadership, now they call each other. Man. Brother, wait 100 years between the rebounder, none of the black rebounders don't work like the show.
Absolutely. So what that means, folks, is that they're bringing brothers and Barnum and Bailey is gone. You got to go out and find the Universal Circus. If you have never been to the Universal Circus, it is more intimate, it is more community-based, but it's something that if you've not gone, especially if you have children, you've got to go see. It is very entertaining. They have performers from all over the world, literally, who are performing it. So I'm sure if you live in a major metropolitan area, it is coming to an area near you. Please make sure you find that in 2019. You'll find it.
With that being said, guys, we're going to call it a night, and then next week. You next show.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, everyone, that was our throwback to 2019. That was the first episode, actually. And next week will be another throwback episode. It's going to be the second show that we did in 2019. And then after that, we'll resume in the new year with our regular show with OSR and Tommy D. Duncan III returning. But we still want to hear from you as far as suggestions for topics for 2026. And of course, if you have any local news going on in your community, or you have someone that's close to you who's passed away, like recently my oldest brother has passed away, so we will add him to the ancestor list in 2026. But feel free to share the information with us, and we'll be glad to try to get it out and disseminate it as best we can. With that being said, thank you for watching our throwback show, and come back next week as we do 2019 again, episode number 2 for 2019, which will be another throwback episode. And then after that, in January, the new year, we'll return with our regular guests and our regular format. Well, with a slight tweak to the format, but everybody will be back in 2026. Thank you so much. Bye.